Okay, so here I am. Good day, Paul Sterling here. I am super excited about this call, and I have to tell you that the layout of the call is not totally well planned, but the information is amazing. And I just spent a couple of days. I was in LA, and I met with somebody who helped me take about 25 years of information and get it down on a single page and get really clear what is a typical conflict between most relationships. So I'm going to lay that out today. And hopefully, if there's any place that's not clear, let's interact, let's follow it up. And when I'm talking about the two types of relationships, intimacy-based or fear-based, and I'm not talking about fear as in, there's some fear-based relationships where I'm afraid of my partner's going to beat me up, is physically, emotionally, sexually abusive or something. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the normal, everyday, we live in fear that we're going to be judged, that we're not enough, that our partner's going to leave us, that most people live in. And so let's dive in and see how I'm doing with technology, because sometimes, sometimes I have less fun with technology than other times. So let's see if this is a good day for technology. And by the way, if you've got questions, you can just type them in on the side there, the chat box, or raise your hand. Let's see. Here we go. Hit play. All right. So the idea of this event is that it creates a breakthrough. And a breakthrough for people is when something becomes possible that wasn't possible before. It doesn't mean that you actually have the breakthrough here, that all of a sudden your relationship's transformed or your relationship to relationships, but something is different. And if you see that, that's a picture of like a little weed growing through pavement, and when it's time, it will do that. So here we go. I'm going to talk a tiny bit. Let's see, somebody needs to mute themselves. So when you come on, if we're not interacting, if you could mute yourself. This actually is the hardest part of this whole event for me, is talking about the work that I do and what people have said. So I'm going to do it anyway, just because my coach says, if it's uncomfortable, do it anyway. But I want you to understand the impact of understanding these distinctions. So this couple in Vermont, and it was very interesting. Oh, we got someone else who's unmuted there. This couple, they came to one of my 3-hour workshops, and then for the next 3 months, he was going to do it, wasn't going to do it, was going to do it, wasn't going to do it. And so finally, they decided to do it. And then here's what happened. After many attempts at couples work with other individuals, working with Paul finally helped my partner and I have a breakthrough to a new place of understanding and appreciation for one another. And that's the idea here. I have a lot of people who come to me as a last-ditch effort to save their relationship that have tried almost anything and everything before. And they tried marriage counseling. I'm not a marriage counselor. I am a relationship coach, an intimacy coach. And having tried marriage counseling unsuccessfully early in our relationship, we were both skeptical about trying a coach. And all I can say is I'm glad we took the chance with Paul. It's made a huge difference. We're happier and more open to one another now than ever. So I'm looking at this. A lot of times, this was from Burning Man. It was a great sculpture out there. And there's these two people and they're back to back. And what's really the little kid inside of them is reaching out and wants to touch each other. And a lot of times, this is what relationships look like. People get hurt, they pull away, they withdraw, but the little kid inside them is longing to be loved. So if you want to change your relationship to relationships, this is a great place to do it. and what people want. And I'm about to give you a little bit of my history just so you understand who I am and why I'm here. If you want to keep love alive, what you have to do is make it easy to win and hard to lose and stay in a state of gratitude. Now, this slide was supposed to show up part at a time, but I guess so much for the fancy part of this slide. Anyway, if you can stay in a state of gratitude, life keeps getting better and better and you have a bright future. If you start taking each other for granted, it becomes easy to lose and hard to win. And when it's hard to win, that's when you start moving into a fear-based relationship, a fear-driven one, because you're trying to win. You're trying everything else to get your lover's approval and appreciation. And the future looks dark and dismal. And you stop getting your needs met and communication falls apart. Now, I didn't start out, I'm going to give you a little bit of me here and then dive into the big picture. I did not start out to be a relationship coach. I'm actually going to stop sharing for a second and then we'll come right back to it. I actually started out as a commercial fisherman in Alaska. And I went through 1 divorce, 4 broken engagements, and was beginning to think something was wrong with me. Like, am I just bad at relationships? And what I found out is the answer is yes. Not that there's something wrong with me, but that I'm bad at relationships. You know, there's something else. I'm bad at flying airplanes, but I was never trained. You wouldn't want me as your dentist because I haven't been trained. You wouldn't want me as your doctor. There are a lot of things. I wouldn't even make a good chef. But if I got trained, I could be good in those things. And so what happened is I started getting myself trained in the world of relationships. And I studied with Tony Robbins and Robert Kiyosaki and Marshall Thurber and Marshall Rosenberg. They're all major changes for me. But Marshall Rosenberg was the creator of nonviolent communication. And that transformed the way that I look at relationships and at life. And so here's what happened is when I saw Marshall's work, it was like given the big picture. And to me, the most important part of a puzzle, and I kind of gave it away there, the most important part is the box top, to see the big picture. And so I'm going to give you today the big picture of relationships as best as I can tell. After 25 years, it was like the light went on. And here's the big picture. Oh, there's something else. What do you see there, by the way? When you look at that picture, type in your answer. What do you see? This is a test of your psychology here. Now watch. What do you see now? And now? And now? Some of you might have seen a nude, but actually it's a bunch of porpoises. And so what I want you to do is be able to look at something totally new. So take the idea of relationships and look at it brand new. And so in this, I just want to ask you and participate either in the chat, raise your hand, do whatever you need to do. Whoops. Oh, for some reason, it's not sharing. I just looked over and realized that my screen sharing is not sharing. So let me escape from that. God, I hate it when technology doesn't work the way I want it to. By the way, anytime that I'm talking as if you're seeing a screen and you're not seeing it, just give me a shout out. Let me know that I've wandered off the trail. Okay. Coming back to it, sharing my screen. Okay, there we go. Now you'll understand what I was saying. The big picture, here it is. Now, when you look at that, what do you see? I'm sorry. I was the only one seeing it. All right, here you go. So it looks like 2 lovers, a naked woman in the front. Now watch what happens. What do you see now? And now? And now? How about now? It's a bunch of porpoises. So if you see me looking over here, I'm making sure I've got a second computer. All right, there we go. I'm going to check my chat here. Okay, so here we go. This is the first line. We have a choice. Here's the choice. We can be alone or being in a relationship. So for most of us, that's a semi-easy choice until we add another factor here. See, in that relationship, I have a choice of sacrificing myself or being myself. And here's the way it works. A lot of people want to stay safe. So here's the safety zone. Being myself, being alone and sacrificing myself, that keeps me safe. Because anytime I reveal myself, I have the possibility of being judged, rejected. Intimacy, most people say, oh, I want more intimacy in my relationship. No, they don't. Intimacy is the opposite of safety. People have this misunderstood. Intimacy is the opposite of safety. When you're being intimate, you're risking, you're opening your heart, you're revealing your dreams and desires, your fears and doubts, your preferences, what you want, what you don't want. So there's the safety zone. So we're going to go through all 4 quadrants here and see where you are, because the big question here is, can I be me and still be in a relationship with you? So the next angle here is fear-driven compromise. And it goes to both these boxes. And at one level, when I have enough fear of losing myself, what do? I bail on the relationship. So you can guess what the other quadrant is. When I have enough fear of losing the relationship, what do? I bail on myself. So sometimes I'm all by myself, but I'm being myself. But I have no relationship. And other times I'm in a relationship that's fear-driven, but I'm not really myself. And I'm always worried about my partner. And I have to say, it's so embarrassing to me because I'm a relationship coach. I have been doing this for 25 years. And I look back on my relationships, and most of my relationships were fear-driven. And it doesn't mean that there wasn't a lot of love in them and a lot of amazing times and wonderment. But I watched a lot of my behavior and I was afraid of being myself. And so what this is looking at the difference of an intimacy-driven path versus a fear-driven path. And up here is where magic happens, and you end up with an intimacy-driven relationship. Now, it sounds really easy. Here's a little chart. Just follow the green arrow, magic happens, you're in an intimacy-driven relationship. No, it takes courage. It takes skills. It's like saying it's easy to be a chef or a musician or an artist. No, there's years of training to get to the magic happens. And the other challenge is you're not just in one relationship, you're in 3 relationships. So I'm going to go into that in a minute, but I want you to find out where you are now. And I'm going to give you 5 options. And then what I want you to do is type in 1 through 5 where you are and where you want to be. So I am at whatever and I want to be at whatever. So I might say I'm at 3 and I want to be at 5. I'm at 1 and I want to be at 3, whichever it is. So I'm going to read them out to you. Number 1 is where you're flourishing. It's magical. It's an intimacy-driven relationship, intimacy-drive relationship. I am dyslexic and my spelling sucks at times, but I love myself anyway. And in this one, I love myself more when I'm with you, when I'm in this relationship. You see me and bring out my best self. I bring out yours. Our love is an oasis. We have each other's back. It is energizing, empowering, and enjoyable. That is a level 1 relationship. And the truth is, I don't know how many relationships I know and how many people I know. In all of those people, I might know 2 and maybe 3 at the most relationships that I consider at the flourish. You know, it's easy to flourish occasionally, but consistently, it's a lot of work. The next level is fine. Things are good. Things are acceptable and okay. We've settled into our comfort zone. It feels safe and everything is just fine. It's better than most of my friends. I'm nervous about saying what I really want, what I dream about, because I don't want to rock the boat and lose what we have. Here we focus on settling, safety, and silence, because we don't want to upset our partner or ourselves. Level 3 is fight. We're fighting, and it's conflicted. Now, the word conflicted, I'm conflicted internally and externally. So I feel conflicted in the relationship. I can't see how I can be with me or be me and be with you. I have to fight to be heard, to get my needs met. There's constant conflicts and misunderstandings. We don't have the tools or the talents to turn things around. There tends to be a lot of resistance, resentment, and regret. So can you find it? And now what I want to be careful on this. In my current relationship, I believe I'm at a 1. We're flourishing, but there are times when we go down to the number 2 or number 3, go through conflict. But it's where do you spend most of your time? It's not like you land there and you get to stay forever. Staying on number 1, that's a lot. That's work. It takes energy to do that. So number 4, fit in. Fit in is where I care more about what other people think about me than what I think of myself. And I feel stuck in a relationship rut. I'm going through the motion, but we have lost that loving feeling. There's not like that intimacy and juice and joy. Given up on our dreams, we are trying, but we quit trying, but stay together anyway. You know, some people say, well, we've been to our relationship for 40 years. And it's like, no, you gave up on your relationship 20 years ago. Some people, their relationship's still growing. If you're not growing and learning, your relationship becomes stagnant. So you're still in the relationship because you didn't die last night. Talking about things just makes them worse. And when I think about making things better, I feel hopeless and helpless and heartbroken. So that's number 4. And in a minute, I'm going to check the chat box and see where people have signed in at to see where it is. And then the third one is fuck it. Now, one of my coaches tells me not to curse in my webinars, but fuck it. That's what it feels like. Doomed. This relationship is doomed. It's fear-driven versus intimacy-driven. We may still even love each other, but I have stopped loving who I am in that relationship. And that's the problem, is when you sacrifice too much in the relationship, and we're taught about compromise, and compromise is lose-lose. I'm not going to get into it too much now, but a lot of people say you need to learn how to compromise. They say, no, you need to learn how to negotiate and resolve things, because otherwise it feels lose-lose. All right. So in this one, where did I go? We may still love each other, but I've stopped loving who I am in the relationship. I feel better when I'm by myself, and it's at the point of no return. That's what PNOR stands for. It is draining, it is disempowering, and it is friggin' depressing. You know? So I'm going to check in on the chat and see what people are saying about the different levels they're at. See if I can do that. 3, want 4, oh hell, 5. 5, and obviously want 1. Yep. Currently at 1 with flavors of 4 and 5. Yeah, and it's a lot of work to get up there and stay up there. And So I'm going to give you some tools in that, and thank you everybody for sharing that with me and sharing it with each other. And I'm just wondering, type in, does it help to be able to see that and see it laid out like that? All right, so, oops. Okay, so technology has taken over here. I'm going back. See, this is my chance to love myself right now, because I'm judging myself and I'm telling myself that everybody else is judging me for not being a technological wizard here. But that being said, here we are, we're back on track. Here we go through the 5. Now, where do you want to be a year from now? And there's a difference between want to and want to. And I'm going to tell you here, and this is a really important thing, because a lot of times you bullshit yourself. You say you want to, and what you want is you want to. So if you want to lose weight, if somebody wants to lose weight, where are they? They're at the gym, they're doing yoga, they're working out, their diet is there. If they want to, they're watching TV going, I wish I weighed less. I wish I had worked out today. I wish I had, so it's like the difference between want to and want to, you're actively headed for the goal. It's a goal. Where do you want to be a year from now? Are you willing to do what it takes to take your relationship from fuck it to flourish? It's a lot of work. So the benefits of doing this kind of goes like this. I was desperate for communication with my beloved. We felt like cats and dogs trying to get along and understand each other. The course gave us the tools, the language, and the infrastructure. We now feel a breath of new possibility for our future and feel a new level of intimacy and love that is deeply fulfilling and exciting. And it's interesting, Melodia and Ian are friends and clients of mine, and I was just last fall at their wedding. I did the MC. I didn't facilitate the wedding, but I emceed the evening, and it was an amazing event. And by doing this work, it allowed them to move from being engaged for years to making the next level of commitment to get married. And they are an amazing couple. The coursework provided us with a foundation of safe space for me to reconnect with my sacred intention partnership, while providing me the tools and techniques to empower me to be at causing creating this. That's Ian. I love Ian's language. He is intentional in his language. So I just want to tell you, if you want to leave now, it's fine. There is no easy button. That's why so few relationships really are intimacy driven, because it takes courage. It's a challenge. And here's the areas that I help people work at. And it's like when I do relationship coaching, I'm helping you build your skills so you can transform your relationship. And the number one, I jumped ahead. Sorry. We are going to get to that slide. I'm rewinding. The reason that most relationships are confusing for people is because you don't have one relationship, you have 3 relationships. Here are the 3 relationships. You are friends, you are partners, you are lovers. And the thing is, if all 3 of these aren't in place, there's a huge chunk of your relationship that's hurting. If you feel like your partners and friends, you feel like a team. If you're friends and your lovers, you feel an intimate connection. And when you get to feeling like a partners and lovers, you have a compelling future. And when you put it all together, you have an intimacy-driven relationship. Now, it looks easy on a slide. It's a challenge. The question is it a challenge worth taking on? So when it comes to friends, what does it take to be a friend? There's a foundation of trust. You can talk about anything and everything without triggering each other. And there's a sense of acceptance. In partnerships, you have a shared vision. You have similar values, whether it's having kids or family or life, whether you care about the environment or you want to make money. And you have similar goals. So that's a couple getting keys to their house. So goals, and when I talk about goals, games, and goodies, because it's really important to continue to have new goals to keep the partnership alive. And when it's lovers, you need a combination of romance, pleasure, and yes, passion. One of my favorite relationship coaches is a woman named Allison Armstrong. What Allison says is most people think sex is a dessert. And she says, no, it's part of the main course. So what's happening in why relationships can be overwhelming and confusing is because you're trying to manage all of them. You're trying to manage being friends, partners, and lovers. And the thing is, long term, what happens is people tend to lean over to the side where they're friends and partners. They're paying bills together, raising a family, have a house. And lover needs to be watered on a regular basis. You need to have date nights. You need to make this a conscious choice. It doesn't happen by accident. See, falling in love, that's easy. Keeping love alive, that's a challenge. And you can see why. You have a lot to handle here. Now, is it working? Here's what happens with a lot of romances. You find Prince Charming and end up, what Allison Armstrong calls it is frog farming, where you take your prince and turn him into a frog by the way that we communicate with them. And men get a lot of abuse in relationships that we don't talk about. But they're not innocent in this. The opposite of that is what I call bitch building. And I'm being blunt here. So if blunt doesn't work for you, once again, I'm probably not your coach. But bitch building is where you take your princess and by not treating them right, by not meeting their needs, by avoiding communication, by not listening to them, they go from being your princess to being a bitch. And guys go from Prince Charming to frog farming. So how do you avoid that? One of the things I'm going to talk about is the right tools. Now, this is the Jeffco Jail, and I was a volunteer and taught at Jeffco Jail for 8 years, and I work with inmates from minimum to maximum security. So when I talk about communication stuff, if it works in this environment, it works almost in any environment. So one day, by the way, that is not me. That's just a picture. I was driving to Jeffco Jail to work at the jail and teach my class. And I got a piece of bacon stuck in my teeth. And it's like the harder I tried to get it out, the worse it got. So finally, I grabbed, I have one there, but have one here, a business card and wedged it in my teeth. Now, what happens when you wedge a business card in your teeth? It ended up getting wet. And now I had bacon and a business card in my teeth because I was using what kind of tools? The wrong tools. And when you use the wrong tools, you don't make things better. I'm making them worse. And it was really frustrating for me. And if you look at it in relationships, I see so many people that say that harder I try, the worse it got. And I look at my years when I was a commercial fisherman and my relationship skills, they sucked. I thought I was still captain when I got home. And the skills that really worked on my boat with my crew didn't work at home. That was divorce number one. So finally I pulled over, and what did I get out? A toothpick. And how long did it take when I got a toothpick and got the right tool to get the bacon out? Like a second. And the problem in most relationships, they're not taught relationship tools, talents, and techniques. So they're trying to get like bacon out of in between their teeth using a hammer. And they destroy the relationship in the process. So here are 3 reasons that most relationship coaching, counseling, therapy fail. Number 1, if you don't agree on what the problem is, you won't agree on the solution. And a lot of times when couples first come in, it's like they both are looking at the other person going, they're the problem, I'm just here to keep them company. And the problem with that problem is they're not excited about it to be the problem. What the problem is the system. They don't have the tools, the training, and the techniques. It's not that they're broken or bad people. If you gave me an airplane to fly, I'd probably crash it in no time at all because I don't have the tools, techniques, and the training. So that's the first reason. And when I work with couples, it's about getting clear, what is the actual issue? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go with the relationship? The second thing is WIIFM, WEIT. WIIFM, if any of you've been in marketing, in the world of marketing, WIIFM is what's in it for me. If you have kids, sometimes you can get your kids to do their homework by taking away their cell phone. But that's not inspirational. That's punishing. That's a fear-based relationship. That's not an intimacy-based relationship. They're only doing their homework to get back their cell phone. A lot of times people go to relationship coaching or counseling to get back their cell phone. It's not their cell phone, it's to have sex again. It's to get their partner back. But they're not in there looking, what's in it for me? How can I learn about me? How can I grow? And if I really get clear that it will transform my life and my relationship with me, which is the most important relationship, then I will do the second half of that. It's WEIT, whatever it takes. Rather than being drug into coaching or counseling, I'll go there voluntarily. Most guys actually really understand and appreciate coaching. But a lot of guys, at least if they've been in sports, have had a coach. And a coach helps them see what they can't see, do what they can't do, and have the discipline to keep it together. And that's where that commitment and accountability come in. What are you committed to, and what are you going to be held accountable for in your relationship? And the third thing is the lack of tools, talent, and training. So the benefits, I've already done this. I just want to show you that is a picture of them, and that's out in Arizona at their wedding. It was very cool. People flew in from all around the world. It was an amazing thing. So what's stopping you right now? So again, I'm going to want you to, there's going to be 7 things come up here, actually 8. Type which one or which ones are stopping you from having the relationship you want right now. And your needs are not getting met. And there's a thing where it's like, do you see your needs, or does your partner see your needs as a burden or as precious? And if they don't see them as precious, it's hard to get your needs met. And when you stop getting your needs met, relationship's basically over. So needs not met, lost trust, that's broken agreements. Can you trust their word? Can you trust yourself in the relationship? Do you give up on your boundaries and needs? Do they override your boundaries and needs? Combative communication. Does it feel like you're heard, understood, and valued? Or is it their resistance, resentment, regret? Do you have to fight to be heard? Is there constant conflicts about almost everything and misunderstandings? Is there a lack of intimacy? When was the last time you were intimate or even wanted to be? Past wounds and triggers. Are they healed, or does every time you talk to your partner, you get triggered or they get triggered? So that's that part we're going to talk about in a minute, about how available are you. Can't deal with differences. Now, see, the opposite of that is you expect and enjoy the differences and decisions, because the masculine and feminine are different. And your ROS, that's your relationship operating system. That's your habits, patterns, and beliefs. Do they support you or do they get in the way? So take a look at this. What's like the top 1, 2, or 3 issues that you have in your relationship right now? Type them in there and then think about what would it be like if you handled them. It doesn't mean that we wave a wand, even though, wait a second, I do have a magic wand. But we can't just wave that wand and make the upsets go away. It's a lot of work. But where do you want to be a year from now? Let's take a look at what are some of the issues that people have put up there. Wounds and triggers is one. Who else? What are the other ones in there that are getting in the way? Can't deal with differences, not getting needs met, lost trust, wounds and triggers. So it's a lot. And I'm going to be clear and I'll be vulnerable in this thing. The reason I know about all of these is I've had them all. And it's not like they go away completely. It's just they don't dominate it. You know how to deal with it. So I created this because I wish somebody had given me this 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I'm now 65. If I had gotten this in my 20s, oh my God, my life would have been so different. And part of the inspiration is watching my parents go through a painful divorce after being married for 18 years. Why? Because they had almost all of these. They had combative communication, lost trust, lost intimacy. My dad had lots of wounds and was very triggerable. Their needs weren't getting met. They couldn't deal with their differences. There was almost constant conflict in the house. They still loved each other, but they could not get along. So here are the key skills that you need. And if anybody wants, I will give you a copy of these slides so you can remember this at the end here. You'll have to send me an email. So number 1, and think about this, there's only 3 core skills. Now, this is an oversimplification, but number 1 is clearing up the past. And I'm going to tell you a story about that. In the world of health and nutrition, maybe some of you are nutritionalists, there's something called bioavailability. Bioavailability is how much your body can absorb of a vitamin. Now, I'm not a nutritionalist, so I'm repeating what I think they told me. And so some vitamins you might only have 10% availability. Some other vitamins that have the same, like 500 milligrams, they might be 80% bioavailability. So it's how available are they to the body? What I'm talking about here is relationship availability. How available are you to be in your relationship? If you haven't cleared up your past, if every time you have a conversation, your triggers come up, your wounds come up, or your partners come up, and you can't talk about stuff, you may be in a relationship for 10, 15 years, but you're only 10% in or 5% in because we can't talk about all of those things. So that's number 1. Number 2 is connecting and getting present. And by the way, one of the greatest aphrodisiacs, especially for men, is you being present. And by the way, it's like, I should say masculine and feminine. I work with straight couples, gay couples, lesbian couples. It's still, there's this energy of masculine and feminine in almost every relationship. And so one of the greatest aphrodisiacs is a partner who's fully present, who's available, who's alive, who can respond and connect to you. And also capability, because there's a big difference between availability and capability. And if I give you an example, if I said, Dave, I know you're on there, so you don't even have to open up or respond. But if I came to you and said, I just got a book, The Dummy's Guide to Drilling on Teeth, and I want to give you a root canal. I'll give it to you really cheap, $50. Would you want to do it? So you can respond on the thing there, Dave. And it's like, and I'm guessing, I haven't looked yet, but if you're smart, you're going no friggin' way. Why? I might be available, but I'm not capable. Most people in the world of relationships are not capable of really having an intimacy-driven relationship. No problem having a fear-based relationship or fear-driven or a normal relationship. This is really for people who want an extraordinary relationship. The third thing is creating future possibilities. And what happens is if you create possibilities for the future, there's a willingness. I'm in this relationship for the long term. I'm not just here today. And now each of these, there are 3 sets of skills that you need. Oh, I jumped ahead of myself. When you clear up the past and connect and get present, what do you create? You create trust. And when you connect and get present and have a future, there's an intimacy. And when you're cleared up the past and you have a future, there's a feeling of safety. And when you do that, you create a relationship or a love oasis. Your nervous system feels safe with each other. I got your back, you got mine. It feels like we're home. And when relationships suck, home doesn't feel like home anymore. You'd rather be at work. You look for excuses not to come home. So, number 1, we help you understand your relationship operating system, your habits, patterns, and beliefs. Are they supporting you, getting in your way? A lot of times, your beliefs were created by a 10-year-old or a 7-year-old that was hurt and disappointed and watched your parents go through some kind of hell, and you made up decisions about relationships. I will never do that. I will never trust a man. I will never trust a woman. I will never be vulnerable. I won't count on anybody. There's all sorts of very interesting beliefs that get in the way of us actually having an incredibly intimate relationship. The next thing is helping clear out the wounds and triggers and learning how to turn conflict into connection, how to resolve conflicts with compassion. Then we move up. And when you're present, what are you present to? If you want to get present, be in a state of gratitude. Constantly find things that you can appreciate about your partner and ask to be appreciated. And this also goes for if you've got kids or parents. Be a person who appreciates people, and you will stand out. Like one of the people here on this call is Dave, and Dave is one of those people that appreciates people, and I appreciate him. He is always like doing extra out there, acknowledging people. He's an example of that. Another one is our trainer. We have Joel Bauer, who's in a state of gratitude, and another person who does that. And you look at people who live in a state of gratitude, it's like they live on a different planet. They have a much happier life. Then understanding what your top 10 needs are, being able to notice them, name them, and negotiate them. Because most people live in need shame. They're embarrassed. They feel like there's something wrong with us. I'm broken. I have a need. And when you learn how to embrace your needs and embrace your partner's needs, not only embrace them, but enjoy them and enjoy meeting them for yourself and your partner, your life changes. And so there's top 10. So be able to get familiar with those. The next one is courageous communication. And why I say courageous is, courageous, if I understand it right, comes from a French word, la cour, which is from the heart. So courage is to come from the heart. And it's not the absence of fear. It's in spite of your fears. Vulnerability, intimacy, that's courageous communication. You're risking something. You're being vulnerable and alive. And now look at these skills as I'm going through them and go, which ones do I want? Where do I need to go? Like if you gave yourself a rating, am I 50% present? Have I cleaned up 50% of my past? Am I 90% in my past, 10% in my present? I talked to one person, they asked what I did. This was years ago. And I told them I'm a relationship coach. And they laughed uncomfortably for it felt like 2 or 3 minutes, which is really awkward because I couldn't understand what the joke was. And finally she said, I have not been in a relationship for 25 years because my last partner hurt me so bad, I'm never going to do that again. So look at her habits, patterns, and beliefs. It triggered her. She was 90% in the past. And so there was nothing available. And now look at what capabilities do you need? Do you need to learn how to be in a state of gratitude? Do you need to learn how to notice, name, negotiate, embrace, and enjoy meeting needs, yours and your partner? And then courageous communication. When you communicate, do you feel heard, understood, and valued? When you listen, does your partner feel heard, understood, and valued? So there was, let's see here. I am trying to see if I can find. Nope, I can't pull up the chat box right now, but I know some people had chatted, so I will pull that up in a second. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yes, please. Yes, please. Oh, heck no. I do appreciate you. Many other folks. Joel is awesome. Awkward. Totally awkward. Okay. I understand it, though. Pretty bad when you wonder if you should be singled or wonder if you should buy a rooster as a lover. Okay. Well, here we go. We're going to do a little more here. This is on creating a future. And part of what happens is when you clear up the past and you're available, you can create a future that's full of love and intimacy. And one of the things I teach is Tantra and sacred sexuality. And most people have not studied sacred sexuality. The same way you would study cooking. Almost anybody can have sex, but very few people have turned it into an art form and make love. I have one YouTube video on Tantra and sacred sexuality, which I teach, that's got 5.2 million views or something like that. I'm blown away. I am blown away because it just hit a nerve. It's not my fancy marketing. I forgot I'd even put it up there till there was 1 million views. But it's something worth learning. And boy, do I wish I had learned that so many years ago. I finally stumbled upon a guy named Charles Youre, who's sort of the grandfather of Tantra and sacred sexuality. Incredible teachings. And so now I include it as something I offer couples. The second thing here in creating possibilities is enjoying your differences. And differences, difficulties, decisions, very rarely do couples make decisions on how they're going to make decisions. So each time they make a decision, it brings up upsets and conflict and misunderstandings. So it's an important thing to do is to create a system for how you're going to make decisions. And then the last one here is what keeps a partnership feeling like a team is you've got goals. So in the beginning of a relationship, the goal might be moving in together, getting an apartment, buying a house, maybe having kids or going to school or getting a job. You've got goals. You're playing the game of life and it's exciting and the goals are the same. And then what happens is people get in a relationship and they're in their relationship 5 years, 10 years, and they don't have any new goals. And what happens is with no new goals, your partner finds another team to be on. Now that doesn't mean they leave the relationship, but they're more interested in the game at work or with somebody else because you haven't created a new game. And games are simple. Like my partner and I were about to go back east to visit my family and some of her family. That's a goal. And we made a game out of it. And we're, giving goodies about it. We're seeing how can we make it fun. So how can you make your relationship less work, more fun? Embrace it, enjoy it. this is well, not the totally the last slide, but it's getting close. We're getting close to the end here. Going to see what people have said. More funnies. Yep. Thanks for the funny. See, you got to look for the funny in here. Okay. So here's your relationship operating system, and this is what we work with. Now, people, to get a result, what do you have to take? It's the actions you take that produces the results that you get. So where are the results? The results are in your past. The actions are in your present. And then what happens is your beliefs control your actions control your results. The problem is your results influence your beliefs. So you end up in this thing called the cybernetic loop. And so and I'm guessing almost everybody on this call had your heart broken at least once, twice. I can't count how many times I've had my heart broken. The act of being back in love, to say I am going to voluntarily be in love and be vulnerable, is such a courageous act. The problem is we're bringing all our past with us. It's created a set of beliefs like men are this, women are this, love is this. It's not safe to communicate. And so what happens is we bring the past into the current. And what's going to happen is you have to create possibilities, a vision of the future that's stronger than your past results, and change your beliefs about what's possible if you want to have a different future. There was a guy named Roger Bannister, and some people on this call probably know who Roger Bannister was and what he did. And he ran something called the 4-minute mile. And for thousands of years, people have been trying to run the 4-minute mile, and they hadn't been able to. And once Roger won it, he changed the beliefs in the world. I mean, as soon as he ran the 4-minute mile, almost every athlete in the world heard about it, at least the people paying attention. And within a year, I don't know, I'm making this number up, but about 20 or 30 other people ran the 4-minute mile. Why? Did all of a sudden it become more possible? No. What happened is the beliefs changed because somebody had done it and it changed the beliefs. And so what we want to do is look at what are your beliefs around relationships, because a lot of those beliefs keep us in a fear-driven relationship rather than the possibility of an intimacy-driven relationship. So here's what you can do. If this is interesting to you and you want to take information and turn it into transformation, it takes something called integration. So information to transformation is integration. And part of that, if you look at it, anybody who really wants to change something, it takes having a commitment and a coach. I have my yoga coach. I have a communication coach. I have a marketing coach. If you look at my slide there, I did not have my spelling coach. That's supposed to be a deep dive conversation rather than whatever that says. So if you think that you would like to be coached by me, here's something you can do. You can, and here's what we do in the coaching. We look at where you want to be like 9 months from now. So where do you want to be in your relationship? You look at where are you now in your current reality and what issues are impacting your relationship. Actually, I want to do this. And before I do this, and there's a couple more here, I want to ask a favor, all of you. I want to ask you, what did you get out of this conversation so far? What opened up for you? What discoveries did you make? And I'm going to ask you to do two things. One is I want you to type it in the conversation box. What did you see for yourself, for your relationship? What became possible? The other thing is, if you're willing, I would love you to send me a a little comment on Facebook, a little testimony about what you learned from this conversation, what became possible in your future. So I'm going to see what conversations. Holy cow, you ran a 4-minute mile as a kid? Dude, that is an amazing thing. That's still a big badass deal. So anyway, all right. So if you're wanting to see if coaching is possible for you, here's what you do. You decide where you want to be. Oh, this is in our 90-minute conversation. Where do you want to be 9 months from now? Where are you now? And you identify the roadblocks that are in your way and discover which one of these 7 persistent problems is causing most of your issues. You choose a plan of action. And there's like 3 main plans. One plan is the ignore it. Another plan is hope and pray that it goes away. Like if your tooth is a cavity, you can hope and pray it goes away. Another plan of action is you can try and change your partner, which rarely works. You can change partners, which I have done in the past. You go get a new partner because you can't figure this out. And the third one is you can communicate in a different way. You can change your skills and learn how to be a different partner. And then you commit to the plan of action and get coached and go along the way. Now, I'm going to bounce out of this. That, by the way, just happens to be the top 10 needs that you have. So let me escape. There we go. I don't think there's anything else that I need to show you right now. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to open it up. If there's any thoughts, comments, questions, let me know. And if you want to be coached, if you want to do a breakthrough session, and I do a 90-minute relationship breakthrough session, and it's also called the Path to Intimacy session. What I do is, if you go on my website, they're $397, and they are totally worth it. We go through, you get a survey, both you and your partner, and we look at what are the issues and lay it all out. And if you want to, you can email me, and I will give you a link that if you do it in the next week, you can get it for $197 instead of $397. And if you think it's to inspire you to take action, it absolutely is, because I'm the kind of person, I buy my ticket at the last minute, just before the prices go up. I do everything at the last minute. So you know what? Sometimes it takes some money to motivate me to take the action that I want to take. If this is not for you, then it's not a big deal. If it is for you, do it. Spend $197 and really get a clear picture of where you are, where you want to go. And if you want to work together to get some coaching. Coaching typically takes 3 to 6 months to really transform the way you are in relationships. So I am just looking at anything else here. People are signing off. Thank you. You can send me an email at, let me give you my email address here just in case. sterling07@gmail.com. Cool. And again, I would love to hear what you got from this, and I would love to have a Facebook message from you all. Oh, there is my email address. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. And unless anybody has a specific question, which I will gladly answer, then I'm going to sign off. So, no questions. And by the way, you can just unmute yourself if you have a question.
I have a question.
All right, go for it, Dave.
So, is a relationship reparable when the other party doesn't partake in self-improvement training and doesn't really communicate well in the relationship? And is that possible?
let me put it this way. It's easiest and most fun when both people are totally into it and committed. And that being said, I've had plenty of relationships where only one person has showed up and it's transformed the relationship. And one of them, they were together for 25 years, and she was the only one who came to the coaching. And if you think about it this way, Dave, if you're dancing cheek to cheek and one person changes, what happens with the other person?
Well, if you're a great dancing team, the other follows.
Yeah, they have to change. Whether they'll either get closer and move with you, or they'll pull away and resist. But when you change, when you really change, it changes the relationship because you no longer interact the same way you used to interact. Does that make sense?
It does.
And now it's a tougher road than if you were both doing it together. There's no doubt about it. But it's a worthwhile road, because just because your partner doesn't go to the gym and work out doesn't mean that you should stay home, because no matter what, you get the benefits from going to the gym.
Right. Absolutely. I agree with that. Yep.
So thank you for your question. Any others? Anybody
Thanks
else?
for the awesome training, Paul. You rock.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Have a great day.